Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Music and Moonsalts. I am your host, Chris Bourdine, and joining me today, he's the overlord of Fightful Overbooked. he ain't no ball and chain. It's Joel Pearl.
That's perfect. I love it. That's the best intro I can have. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Dude, I'm stoked. Not only because of what we're talking about, but like when you and I get to sit down and talk about anything but wrestling,
Yes,
that's even better. Like
yes.
we talk about wrestling, that's fine. But like I do it so much now that when I get to talk about music, which is like my 1A and 1B or 1 and 1A,
Yep.
wrestling and music,
Yep.
this is bread and butter. This is a nice change for me.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you brought me back. I appreciate it. I love having these chats with you. So yeah, man, let's get into it. Let's do it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I feel the exact same way. I love. Yeah. We're right there, whereas, with the 1A, 1B thing with music and wrestling, and it's I enjoy having these conversations with you. So I sent, in an effort to be prepared this year, I sent Joel quite an extensive spreadsheet of potential albums towards the end of last year. I'm like, hey, no pressure, whatever, just let me know what you might want to talk about next year. Love to have you on, of course. And so you sent me your list back, and with all that preparation, we are like 3 days past the anniversary date of the album we're talking about today. So whatever.
People will find it when they find it, and they'll hear
happens.
us talking about it. And exactly, it's still the 25th anniversary of the album.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't matter when they see it, as long as they see it this year. In 2023, we're going to take it down. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can only see it for this year. That's it. After that, it's over.
So we are talking today about one of those albums that Joel said that, hey, I really would like to talk about. This was an album from the Offspring, Ixnay on the Hombre, which, as Joel just said, its 25th anniversary is this month. February 4th, 1997 was the release date. And
also happens to be my wife's birthday is February 4th.
There you go.
So even more special for this.
Awesome. Happy birthday to Mrs. Pearl. So I just real quick, I mean, not real quick, actually, but before we get started into the album itself, what is, just tell me about your relationship with the Offspring.
So the Offspring, and actually this album specifically was probably my introduction to the Offspring. And from there, I went into the back catalog because people were like, you have to listen to Smash, you have to listen to Ignition, you have to listen to, to everything that came before it. But I kept coming back to Ixnay because I just fell in love with almost every track on the album. And I started keeping track of the band through Americana and then through Conspiracy of One, even as far as Rise and Fall Raging Grace, because that album to me was like their return to form after being lost for so long. Like, I'm not talking about Splinter. I'm not really into that part of the band when they really got into like, we have to talk about, Orange County. We had to talk about OC life all the time. Once they got out of that and went back to being like California punk / pop punk rock, that's when I got back into the band. And they had who did Rise and Fall Raising Grace? It was Bob Rock did the album.
Okay.
And,
yeah, that's right.
And that was like, he brought them back to form. And that's probably the last time that I really paid attention to the Offspring until fairly recently. But it always came back to two albums, and that was Americana and this album, Ixnay on the Hombre. These were my two favorite albums by the Offspring, and I always come back to it, and I always listen to them.
All right, yeah, they've always been like a hits band to me. Like I'm more than familiar with the radio songs, and I'm pretty sure my dad had Smash.
Yes,
which is why, like, so you said you wanted to, and of course, like, I know of the album, but for, like, outside of the one song we'll talk about, like, nothing up as opposed to the Smash and Americana, like, that's the one song. Like, I don't remember any of the other three singles ever being played, at least, in the Detroit, Toledo area where I, grew up in. And so it's kind of weird that, like, as like I said, going back to Smash, like I remember kids in middle school with the T-shirts with the Smash album cover on it, like Smash.
Yes.
You know,
Iconic.
like and 94 in general is just people. 91 is a crazy year. 94 is just a murderer's row when it comes to rock albums.
Yes, 100%.
And it's like, but it's Smash and Dookie are kind of like cream of the crop, especially when it comes to bringing punk more into the mainstream. And eventually it's kind of going to splinter off, and towards the end of the decade we're going to get like the pop punk wave coming in. But I just found it interesting. And then you go on to Americana, the follow-up album that comes out the following year. Obviously that one had like 3 huge songs. And so it's kind of I found it kind of weird how this one just kind of, as far as like in my consciousness, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but like this one kind of just gets lost in the shuffle.
It does. It really does.
And even when you look at the album sales, which we'll get to, like this one compared to Smash and Americana, it's like, it's really weird.
I think with Ixnay, the popularity is that the songs that were picked and the songs that made it big, quote unquote, because Americana is a completely different beast with them. This was like the start of people seeing that they can write a hit song, that the Offspring can write a hit song. But the problem was the hit songs that they had were kind of downer, like in lyrics and in motif and in theme. Like we'll talk about Gone Away. We'll talk about All I Want. And like the songs are not happy songs.
Yeah.
They don't sound happy. The lyrical content's not happy. And then you're going to get into Americana, which I'm sure next year when we're going to sit here again and we're going to talk about it on that 25th anniversary. And when we get there, the singles that came out of that were different. They were happier, but lyrical content was still like, it was still low. It was still like sad lyrical content. But you take a song like The Kids Aren't All Right, and it's just an angry song, but it's more upbeat than Gone Away. Gone Away is a sad funeral-esque song, whereas All I Want, for example, is a more upbeat, the kids are not all right type of song.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I say? The kids aren't all right? No, which song was I saying?
No, you said that.
From Americana. I did say the kids aren't all right?
You
Okay.
did, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
My brain is all over the place. But
Yeah,
that's kind of the big difference between those two records and the singles and the way they were kind of perceived in the mainstream at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Ixnay is their 4th studio album. It's their first on the major label, Columbia. And maybe this kind of speaks to maybe why the album, as far as sales, didn't perform. Because much like, Green Day, when Dookie was released, they sort of got a little bit of backlash from the fans at first for, jumping to the major label. Until the Dexter Holland kind of was like, well, here's why.
Yeah.
You want to explain that situation?
No. If you want, like, I know you have the notes there.
Yes.
Go, please.
So
yes,
they were on an independent label, Epitaph, up until this album, and the owner, Brett Gurewitz, who was a guitarist for Bad Religion, is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
I didn't write that down in my notes, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. He kind of was like trying to like go behind the band's back and sell the like distribution rights to Smash in exchange. Like basically he would reap all the benefits, from the increased distribution from all these major labels. So they find out, they get, they're pissed, and they end up signing with Columbia for less money just to get away from Epitaph.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Because like Epitaph was the place where young punk bands were signing. It was the place to be. And then to get a major record deal, that's huge. Like you wanted that. You wanted to be pumped into the mainstream. So yeah, I'll let you continue. That was kind of the belief at the time.
Yeah. And then, like I said, they're coming off of Smash, which, peaked at number 4, 11 million copies. It was the highest, I don't know if it still is or not, the highest selling album released on an independent label at the time. and that's going up. Like I said, 1994 is crazy, and we'll talk about it probably in a couple years. But like you got Super Unknown by Soundgarden, Vitalogy by Pearl Jam, the Weezer's Blue album, Purple by STP, just MTV Unplugged, Nirvana. Like 94 is crazy.
And these are releases from monster bands who have already established themselves too. Mm-hmm. So for the Offspring to come in and really on their third major album have some sort of success with Smash, that says something. And they only had 3 or 4 songs that really made it, that people really latched onto, which is pretty big actually for 94.
Yeah.
But that was at the time, like that was the thing. That's what started the breakout for the Offspring. People started seeing that this band had a lot of potential to continue what bands, like what was going on in the grunge movement, what they were bringing to the table.
Yeah. And then again, you fast forward to the next album, Americana peaks at number 2 and sold like 10 million copies. So then you look at Ixnay by comparison, it peaked at number 9 on its first week, which, top 10 album, that you can't beat that. But it's only sold 3 million copies, which is like that. Like that's just, it's crazy.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's also a short ass album.
Well, yeah, it is.
That was honestly, and that was another big leap for them from Ixnay to Americana, was writing more lengthy songs that were not just old school punk length songs. Mm-hmm. They were challenged at that point to do something that would get them into mainstream radio. And again, when we sit down here in a year and we talk about Americana, we'll talk about Pretty Fly for a White Guy. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about The Kids on Earth. We'll talk about Why Don't You Get a Job, which was a monster hit for them too. Mm-hmm. And that's another song that had so much of an upbeat sound, yet it was the lyrical content is so downtrodden.
Yeah.
But they became the kings of writing that type of tune. There's another tune off of Splinter, I think it is, that's called The Worst Hangover Ever. And it's like a ska song. It makes no sense, but it just splits. Spare Me the Details is another one from Splinter. Right. And again, when we sit down and we talk about Splinter, when it gets to that, whatever. Right. Next year, because Splinter released in 2003. So when we get to the 20th anniversary of Splinter and we talk about that album,
there you go.
We'll talk about Spare Me the Details, which is like an acoustic sensibility song about cheating on somebody, catching someone cheating. So at a party. Go. And that's the lyrical content and the genius of the song structure of the Offspring, is that they continue to make these tunes that are so upbeat, but have such like awful lyrical content. Not the lyrics themselves, just what they're singing about. You feel for the characters that they're singing about.
Well, even like fast forward even further, like you said, the Bob Rock album. That's the one with You're Gonna Go Far Kid, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Like that's like the ultimate like downer song with an upbeat.
It's a Panic at the Disco song with it's a dance beat. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's such a good song too, but the lyrical content is so down, and that's what they do, and they do it so well, and it's gotten them real far. And they didn't have that on Ixnay. Yeah, exactly. They went far, kid. But they didn't have that on Ixnay, because Ixnay, they had the downer lyrical content and the downer music to go with it. There were songs that were very California punk, and there were songs that were upbeat, but they were never. It didn't emote the same ways as other songs did on later albums. Yeah.
So we'll let's get into the album. We're gonna kick off with a disclaimer.
I love this shit. I love that they did this shit. By the way.
When I first time I listened, like this popped me so much. It's so it's like this like over exaggerated like announcer voice guy going, this American Pie institution known as parental discretion will cleanse any sense of innuendo or sarcasm from the lyrics that might actually make you think, and will also insult your intelligence at the same time. So protect your family. This album contains explicit depictions. That's tough to say. Of things
I'm sure
which
he had to do it a few times.
Real. These real things are commonly known as life. So if it sounds sarcastic, don't take it seriously. If it sounds dangerous, do not try this at home or at all. and it offends you, just don't listen to it.
Listen to it. And you put it all to a backbeat that's just like, and the guitars are going, it's a circus track.
Yeah, exactly.
As a disclaimer.
Yeah.
And it's so perfect, and it sets up the album perfectly because it's sarcastic, just like so much of the lyrical content of the album. And it's cutesy and it's tongue-in-cheek, but again, it may be a little bit ahead of its time, or not, who knows.
Yeah,
but
who
I
knows?
think it was more ahead of its time than anything else.
Yeah. And that leads right into The Meaning of Life, which is the third single off the album, and it's featured in the movie Tekken the Motion Picture. I didn't even know they made a Tekken movie.
Me neither. I had no idea. When you said that it was a single, when you said that it was featured, I was like, in what? I don't remember Tekken movie at all.
Well, it's the only single that didn't. I believe it did really well in Australia, but other than that, I don't think it really did much here. In the old states.
It existed.
It existed, right. Well, like I said, like Gone Away, like I swear to God, until I started, really listening to this album in preparation for this, Gone Away is the only song I've ever heard off of this album. I swear.
Really?
Maybe not. Maybe I've heard some of the other ones before, but I know Gone Away was played so much, and because of it being so close to, like, if you would have asked me before this, I would have swore it was on Americana, because it's like right, they're right next to each, released a year apart, or so. And I mean, we'll get to it when we get to that song, but yeah, other than that, I really didn't hear anything else off this album that at least made any impression on me. So
fair. Yeah, I get it.
Then we go to go ahead.
I was going to say that song, though, Meaning of Life, drives really well.
Yes.
It's the same thing on the next album, too, where they get right into when they do Staring at the Sun. Mm-hmm. Meaning of Life reminds me of Staring at the Sun in just the way that it's formatted, the way that it sounds. I put the two together quite often. So I really like that song. We'll keep going with Moda.
Yeah, Moda. And this song features the Keep 'Em Separated guy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same guy, Jason McLean.
I didn't think about that. That's awesome. And it opens with that really cool drum, that really cool drum track.
Moda.
It's really good. I like that.
I didn't look up the lyrics, but it sounds like it's basically about getting high and watching like old reruns.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Moda had to be something. It had to mean something.
Yeah, it had to.
Oh, it's cannabis. It's pot.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, there you go.
That's legit. I just looked it up right now. There it is.
Makes sense.
Yep. California, baby.
You got it. I love the part in the second verse where he goes to buy some weed, and he ends up realizing later on that he bought a bag of oregano.
Yes. I will never forget that. And sometimes I'll forget which song it was, but yeah, it's absolutely in Moda. That's such a good. I love it.
Me and My Old Lady is next. She Ain't No Ball and Chain. This one, it kind of feels like it's the spiritual descendant of Self-Esteem almost.
Oh, good call.
It's kind of almost the same. And I got and it's funny because I remember, do you remember like in the early 2000s when Axl Rose had been saying for years that he was going to put out an album called Chinese Democracy, and then as a goof, Dexter Holland was like, no, we're gonna name our next album Chinese Democracy, and he didn't do it. But I say that because this song gives me kind of like a Rocket Queen almost type of vibe. It's got that similar groove to it.
It does. It also has it's a very distinctive kind of sound. It sounds a little bit more because it's in a minor key, so it sounds a little bit more Middle Eastern or even just like Asian influenced. It's just the chord structure. It's very simple, but when I listen to it, just the way that it's structured, it makes me think that it's a Middle Eastern trope. But the song itself is again, it's so weird. Like me and My Old Lady sit and sip on wine, and I forget the rest of the lyrics. But the lyrics are not. There's nothing there. They just exist. Yeah. So yeah, the song otherwise though, it's memorable just by chord structure.
Yeah. The next two songs I didn't really have much notes on. Cool to Hate, which it's cool title. And Leave It Behind. Do you have anything on those two songs?
Cool to Hate is a really memorable song for me just because the lyrics are fun. It's very simple. You know, I hate the jocks and I hate the geeks. I hate, it's like, basically I hate myself, but while he hates everything else. And then it's Cool to Hate in the breakdown.
Yeah.
Leave It Behind. I don't remember Leave It Behind. It's just there. It's a 2-minute song. Like it's just in and out.
Mm-hmm. And then we get to the song Gone Away. I remember I was still making radio mixtapes at this time.
Yep.
And I probably had various I had countless this song on, you know, I probably had like 2 or 3 tapes going, and I never was organized with them, so I'd forget what songs I already had. So it'd be like, oh, I like this. Oh, and then when I go back and listen to them through, I'm like, oh, that song's on there twice, or I have it on, like I'd come in the middle, I'd be like, that's good enough. But yeah, Gone Away was on there multiple times.
Yep.
It's a great song.
It is great. It's memorable.
4 chords, simple, just
easy. Just get the bass in. It drives well. And again, it's a low song in that the lyrical content is very mushy and it's downer, but it's such a good song, and it's so emotional. And I think you can really tell that it's there. Yeah,
and it's like, you know, it's based on like a real experience, I guess. It's someone in Dexter's life that passed away that he wrote it about. So have you heard the Five Finger Death Punch cover of the song?
No. This is hilarious. You always bring me these covers of the songs that I play, like because I'll play the originals, and people who know me maybe from when I hang out on Twitch and play guitar, that I'll play Gone Away, or I'll play any of these tunes. You did this randomly to me the other day on Twitch with a U2 song, with Beautiful Day, and I was like, I had no idea that there was that cover, and so you sent it to me, and you do this all the time, and I love it. You'll seek out these obscure covers from these bands. And Beautiful Day is not an obscure song, but it's an obscure song for like a hard rock or a metal band to cover. And so you sent it to me. You do this all the time, is what I'm saying. I did not know Five Finger Death Punch did a Gone Away cover.
It's I don't know how I feel about it, because I definitely like Five Finger Death Punch's covers more than I like their original material. I think their cover of Bad Company is awesome. Love it.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They kind of turn it into a piano ballad.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I might check it out now.
I'm not sure. Like, it's like I give them credit for doing something different with it, but I'm not sure if I liked it or not. So I didn't know if you had heard it or not.
No, now I'm gonna go find it, because it's if it's different, I'm gonna want to listen to it. I remember when I was in a studio cutting what was supposed to be my first album with a band that was starting to go places. The producer we were working with wanted us to do an inverted cover. And an inverted cover, for anyone who doesn't know, is taking the original song but flipping it in a genre on its head. So you want to take the song. We decided to do Tragedy by the Beegees, and we were going to turn it into like a more punk style song. And Tragedy is a very disco driving, almost rocky song. So we were on the cusp of it, and it was there, but it wasn't there. And it's a great song. So we didn't end up doing it, but at the time we were going through all these inversion covers of bands who had taken, like Fozzy did SOS, right? They took ABBA's SOS, and they did a pretty good job of it. Boba Flex took Sound of Silence. They did a good job with that. They exist, is what I'm getting at. And if Five Finger Death Punch changed it up enough to make it kind of their own, but still leave the Offspring version in there a bit, I want to hear that shit. And it's probably going to be real good.
Yeah. Then we get I Choose, which was the 4th and final single off the album. And it peaked at number 5 on the mainstream rock chart, but not included in the 2005 Greatest Hits compilation.
I kind of get it. I like the song, but it wasn't exactly. I want to know, was 97 an election year in the States? Do you remember?
No, it would have been 98.
96?
No, 96.
96, yeah. That would have been an election song. Someone would have tried to use that as an election song, just based on the name I Choose. But no, instead, it's a good song. Like, I really do like that song.
I like the Latin percussion in the song. And the second verse is a literary reference to a J.D. Salinger's short story, "A Perfect Day for Banana Fish."
I didn't know that.
Now you do.
Makes sense considering Dexter Holland would have written all this.
And
Dexter Holland is a damn genius.
And then we get to Intermission, which is again just hilarious. It's the music is T for Two, a song from like 1924. And if it sounds familiar, it's been used in the Looney Tunes, and they used it a lot on Johnny Carson, I guess, if you're old enough to have watched Johnny Carson.
If you're watching Looney Tunes, you're probably old enough to remember Johnny Carson. Come on.
True. And it's just that music, and then every so often someone will go, "Intermission."
Intermission. Because you can guess what they're doing during intermission.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then after Intermission is "All I Want," which is the first single off the album.
And this is the one that I remember best off of this album. Not Gone Away. This was the song that got me into this album.
Okay. It's the shortest single released by the band at 1 minute and 55 seconds. Get in, get out.
Yep. It really is. It's very quick. And did you ever see the video for it?
No.
It's like all just disasters. Just disasters. And I'll never forget seeing the opening is like a plane crash, like a 1920s plane crash, like a Wright Brothers plane crash. And that alone just hooked me. I remember watching it as a kid on Much Loud, which used to be Much Music in Canada, kind of like MTV. And then they split off into different channels. One was Much Loud, which was like alternative and metal and alt and punk and all that.
Yeah.
So Much Loud would always play videos because Much Music at the time were starting to play more TV shows and movies and stuff like that. So Much Loud would play random videos.
They really are the Canadian MTV then.
They really were. And now it's gone. Now it's done. But at the time, this was 97, 98, whatever it was, I remember seeing the video for All I Want and being like, this band is so good. And this video is so good. And just like my brain just all open and I wanted to get the album. And I got it. You know where I got the album initially, by the way?
Where did you get the album?
From my public library.
Nice.
I had them bring it in because they were like, fill out a form and we'll have it shipped in and you can rent it from the library. And that's what I would do. I would go to the library, I'd get it. And then I may or may not have illegally ripped it and then kept the CD. But I supported my local library, which is more important.
There you go.
I would say. So support your local library.
I did the old school dub it onto a cassette. That was my move.
That works too. Yeah. I just had a computer with a CD burner. So I'd rip them and I'd do that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess originally Dexter wrote this for a songwriting competition while they were still at Epitaph. And he submitted it, and it was titled Protocol at the time, was the title of the song. And Gurewitz told him, you should play it on acoustic or something. Like,
oh, God, no, that's awful.
So
trying to tank him.
So then he all right, fine. So he reworked it to sound more like the Offspring, and they put it on this album. And added bonus, wrestling connection.
Ooh.
Ready for this?
Yes, I am.
This is going to be the most obscure. This is going to be more obscure. So I had Phil Lindsay on in December, right? And we were talking about Queen. And
saw that one. It was very good. By the way. People need to go and watch that.
So my pull about the guy, the song Millionaire Waltz, which was about their manager, and that manager in the was played by in the Elton John movie Rocket Man, was the villain from 12 Rounds. The John Cena movie. That was an obscure pull.
That's very obscure. I love it.
This one may be more obscure. This song is used as the entrance music for a DDT wrestler named, I'm going to butcher, Tui Kojima.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm all down for the DDT references. It's been a long time.
There we
go. That's right. But I can see why he called it Protocol. If he didn't change the lyrics, right? Like back off your rules, back off your jive. Because I'm not sick of living to stay alive. Leave me alone, not asking a lot. I just don't want to be controlled. Like that's protocol. And he's like, break me away from protocol. Yeah. I get it. That's what he wanted to call it initially.
Yeah. And then we get way down the line. Maybe
I love that song, by the way.
it's a good song.
Just the opening with the choral.
Yes, yes.
Choral arrangement. Yeah.
Yes. And then the ending is maybe like the kind of the first dipping their toe in the water of maybe we're kind of sort of gonna start ripping off some classic rock songs, because the last like 30 seconds is clearly Dire Maker by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the whole why don't you get a job, obla da thing on Americana. So
that's when they figured it out.
exactly.
That's such a good song. The Way Down the Line is such a like easygoing go to work song.
Yeah.
You know, it's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Don't Pick It Up. This is probably my least favorite song on the album. It's like a ska song without the horns.
It is, but it's also just, again, lyrical content. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like a bunch of illegal stuff and a kid picking up a piece of dog shit. Like it's very, it's funny. I liked it.
Yeah.
But it's very inconsequential to the rest of the album.
Yes. Amazed. This is definitely their more like a more alt rock sounding song.
This may have been the song that I skipped most of the time.
Really?
I think so. I need to go back and like full on listen to it again, but I remember being like, nah, because I like even Change the World. I was trying to remember what it really sounded like before I went in to listen. And I remember like Amaze was like,
I really like the guitar riff, the picking and stuff. I really liked it.
oh, good point. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and like really,
There you go.
really listen to it again.
Really listen to it.
Really, listen
And then
to
we end on Change the World. There's a hidden track. So those of you who aren't old enough to have lived through CDs and cassettes, they used to do things where, I mean, there might be some. I might have some youngins watching, maybe, hopefully. But bands used to do this thing where like you'd listen to the last song and like you'd expect the CD to stop, but it just kept going and going and going and going, and there'd be these hidden tracks. It's kind of weird listening to it on streaming now, because it's like, why wouldn't you just take that out and just make a separate
just call it hidden track.
Yeah.
But then you got to pay it out. That's the problem.
Well, there you go. And this, it's not really even a track. It's just they get to the end, and it's Larry Bud Melman of David Letterman fame. I wasn't a Letterman fan, so
Sure.
Whatever. Sure. Shout out to him. It's just him. It sounds like an older gentleman saying, "I think you guys should try heavy metal. Kiss my ass."
Ha ha ha. I remember that. It's the same thing at the end of Why Don't You Get a Job? Now that's something everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, there you go. It's probably the same dude.
Probably is, actually.
So there you go. That's the album. I as much as, like I said, wasn't really familiar, I loved listening to this album over the last week or so. You know, I listened to it quite a few times. So I think everyone should go check it out. It's really good.
I agree. It changed my life in a lot of ways for the better, because as I was a kid trying to figure out what kind of music really spoke to me and what I enjoyed, I knew I was enjoying the Metallicas and like that version of heavy metal, the thrashier metal. And I was like, nah, let's tone it down a bit. And the Offspring was the good starting point for me to tone down my musical tastes a bit and try something different. And I started getting into punk bands and into ska bands and into like pop punk. So this was an album that started to do it for me. It's a gateway away from metal and into something less metal.
There you go. Just listen to the drums though on hold on, what I lost Meaning of Life, just and thinking of that being toning it down just kind of pops me.
But that's the thing, like it you're right, like it totally is, like, yes, it's very heavy, but it's also not heavy metal double bass drum, you know, getting into that. I get it. There are people who are going to be watching this and being like, the hell is he saying? But I'm saying if you listen to one and you get to the breakdown and One by Metallica, it's very different than what this is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And also the rest of the album tones down a bit too. It's not metal, but it's still heavy. It's just not as heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And imagine being a kid and you're just listening to some of these lyrics and being like, ha, 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 because some of it's just jokey and sarcastic. And I liked that as a kid. Maybe I was just a messed up kid, but I enjoyed the lyrical content. I didn't understand it the ways that I would now. And I'm sure as I go back and re-listen to the album more and more, I'm just like, holy shit, like there is some deep actual content here. But when I was a kid, it was just face value, words and words.
Right. Yeah.
It's a good album though.
Great album. It's a very good album. Very good album.
Had to talk about it. Had to talk about it with you.
Yes.
And I appreciate you bringing me on to talk about it.
I appreciate you coming on to talk about it. You're a very busy man these days.
No, I'm not. What are you talking about? I got nothing left to do today. I'm just going to edit some video.
So tell me about Fightful Overbooked, Joel.
Fightful Overbooked is a place that is completely different from wrestling content that you normally see. The stuff you see on Fightful is very wrestling. It's serious wrestling, but it's not.
Right.
So like people who are familiar with Sean Ross Sapp knows how he frames a lot of the conversations he has. He'll have serious conversations on a post show or with his co-host about pro wrestling and then sprinkle in jokes or life stories and, calls himself the Dong Lord. He doesn't take things as seriously, right. But the way I take wrestling is as theater, as comedy, as entertainment. It's not sport to me.
Right.
But it might be with others. Mm-hmm. So Fightful Overbooked is an opportunity for me to not only bring on the pals to talk about wrestling in weird and wacky ways, but it's also a way for us to take it not so seriously. And that's the way we positioned Overbooked. There's other stuff on the channel, people talking about Degrassi, people talking about their dating life and their experiences. There's Twitch gaming for, people who are familiar with Fightful on Twitch. We put our gaming VODs on there, especially the wrestling stuff. And yeah, it's different content. We call it the Ocho lovingly. Yes. It's Fightful the Ocho, but that's Overbooked. And I know you're going to come on and do something with us very soon.
Yes, I have some ideas.
I'm so ready.
Yeah, you Tim and Joel Call It a Ring has migrated over to Fightful Overbooked as part of that. So
that was in the contract.
There you go.
When we negotiated, I said, I'm not doing any work unless I bring Tim with me. And Tim was, no, wait, what are you doing? Why do you want me to come with you? And I said, I need a video editor. No, but seriously, Tim and I had a talk when we were offered, and we were really, really appreciative that we can bring our voices to Fightful and also bring our pals with us. So it's really neat.
Yeah,
really
Joel's hosting a multitude of shows or co-hosting, Grappy Hour, and was it the best worst thing or
So Bad It's Good.
So Bad It's Good. There it is. Yes.
Which, by the way, is like the most edited show that we do, the most post-produced. It has a lot of really funny content there.
I need to go check out the video because I listened to the audio.
That's right. You got to watch the video.
I do.
It creates a totally different scene for those who are not used to it. So. We're going to be starting Here's Why You're Wrong with myself and Kate, who people know from Fightful. Her and I are going to debate random topics. The first week, the video, when this drops, doesn't matter. The first one we're doing is NXT 1.0 versus 2.0. And we basically just go at each other's throats about NXT for a bit. And we'll get into
Let me guess. Kate's on the side of 2.0, obviously.
You'd think I would do that to her, but I wanted to spare her the embarrassment, and I took 2.0. And I did my best and made it as weird and wacky as I could.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
there's a whole whack of stuff. Just go to youtube.com/FightfulOverbooked or FightfulOverbooked.com, and that has everything there. All the content's there.
Definitely go check that out. You can follow Joel at Joel Pearl. You can follow me on Twitter at IbanezChris. You can like my Facebook page, Facebook.com/MusicandMoonsalts, or you can look me up on a multitude of podcast platforms to get the audio of this here podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, leave me a thumbs up, all that good kind of stuff, please. Thank you. Until next time, guys, see ya.